What if the most powerful woman in media, the woman who built an empire by exposing other people's truths, was secretly sitting in her own mansion whispering a sentence she never wanted the world to hear? 6 words that could destroy everything she helped create. I should have never trusted her. And just like that, the interview that was supposed to crown Meghan Markle as the most protected voice in the world quietly turned into Oprah Winfrey's most haunting regret.
Conversation with you?
With Harry.
About...
Prince Harry had a duck emergency at Oprah Winfrey's house, and you have to hear it to believe it.
Oprah was asked how she feels about Meghan and how she's being portrayed. It goes right back to all those rumors we were just talking about. She was very calm, not afraid to get framed.
For years, the silence was louder than anything Oprah had ever said. And that silence wasn't random. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't forgetfulness. It was distance, deliberate distance. Because Oprah Winfrey does not disappear from her own cultural earthquakes unless something went very, very wrong behind the scenes. She had opened her private Montecito garden, her personal sanctuary, and most importantly, her reputation, the single most valuable currency she possessed, and handed it to Meghan Markle without hesitation. No interruptions, no harsh confrontations, no skepticism, just trust. And Meghan stepped into that trust like it was a stage built exactly for her.
Sitting down with Oprah was a reaction to what had happened that year.
The more distance that came between us.
From the outside, it looked historic. Meghan cried. She spoke slowly. She paused at the perfect moments. She revealed pain. She revealed betrayal. She revealed vulnerability. And Oprah, the queen of emotional storytelling, leaned in, nodded, and gave her the space. But behind Oprah's composed expression, something subtle had already begun to crack. It wasn't obvious at first. No dramatic confrontation, no public outburst, just a feeling. A small, quiet instinct whispering something wasn't adding up. And Oprah, a woman who built her entire career on reading people better than anyone else alive, couldn't ignore that instinct forever.
Oprah's body language mean, and what did it say when she was talking to Gayle King about the Meghan and Harry interview?
That instinct turned into something darker when whispers started reaching her inner circle. Conversations she wasn't supposed to hear. Observations she wasn't supposed to notice. Moments that didn't make sense until they were viewed through a different lens. And then came the sentence, not spoken publicly, not announced, not written, just whispered behind closed doors like a confession she couldn't undo. I should have never trusted her. And that sentence didn't explode overnight. It spread quietly, slowly, like smoke-filling rooms Oprah wasn't even standing in. Because Hollywood doesn't react loudly when trust is broken. Hollywood reacts by going cold. Emails stop getting answered. Invitations stop arriving. Doors that once opened instantly suddenly remain shut. And Oprah Winfrey's silence became the loudest signal anyone needed. When that interview aired, Oprah stood at the center of the world's attention. Her name was everywhere. Her face was everywhere. Her platform had amplified Meghan Markle into the most sympathetic and powerful narrative figure on the planet. And then Oprah disappeared. 3 years. 3 full years of complete silence. No comments, no clarifications, no defense, nothing. And that wasn't normal. Oprah had never behaved like that before. Because Oprah didn't just give Meghan a microphone, she gave her credibility. She gave her emotional protection. She gave her an environment so safe that no truth would feel dangerous. And that level of trust is sacred in Oprah's world. But something happened after the camera stopped rolling that made Oprah quietly step back and never step forward again. At first, it was the smallest detail. Something nobody else cared about. Something nobody else noticed. The chicken coop. It seemed innocent, charming, a symbol of peaceful life away from royal chaos. But Oprah later learned that the entire scene had been freshly staged, repainted, reset, reconstructed just days before filming. What looked like authenticity wasn't authenticity at all. It was presentation. And presentation, when disguised as vulnerability, feels like betrayal to someone who built their empire on emotional truth. That realization didn't hit Oprah like a storm. It hit her like a slow sinking weight. Because once she started questioning one detail, she couldn't stop questioning everything. And then came the request. Quiet, direct. Delivered privately after filming ended. Meghan wanted access to the final edit. She wanted influence. She wanted control over how her story would be shown. And in Oprah's world, control doesn't belong to the guest. Control belongs to the truth. Oprah's response was immediate, firm, final. Absolutely not. This is my platform. That was the moment Oprah realized something had shifted, because nobody had ever asked her that before. Nobody had ever treated her platform like something to be managed instead of respected. And suddenly, the interview wasn't just an emotional conversation anymore. It was something else entirely. Then came the message from Gayle King, a message Oprah never expected. Short, simple, disturbing. Meghan had pitched the same story elsewhere, the same emotional arc, the same carefully structured narrative, the same vulnerability. And Oprah realized something devastating. She hadn't been chosen because of trust. She had been chosen because of reach, and that realization landed harder than anything else, because Oprah believed she was helping someone share their truth. But what if she had actually helped someone shape their brand? And once that thought entered her mind, it never left. What came next wasn't dramatic, it wasn't explosive, it was quiet, calculated, final. Oprah didn't attack, she didn't accuse, she didn't defend herself. She simply stepped away, completely, permanently, because in Oprah Winfrey's world, silence isn't weakness. Silence is judgment. And the moment Oprah stepped back, everyone else noticed. Not publicly, not officially, but unmistakably. Because Oprah doesn't need to announce her decisions. Her absence says everything. And Meghan Markle, for the first time since that interview, was standing in a spotlight that suddenly felt colder than ever before. The shift didn't happen overnight, and that's what made it even more devastating. Because Meghan Markle didn't wake up one morning to headlines announcing her fall. There was no dramatic scandal, no explosive press conference, no viral video exposing her. Instead, something far more dangerous happened. The silence that Oprah created began spreading like a shadow across Hollywood, quietly reshaping how powerful people saw Meghan without a single word being spoken publicly. Oprah didn't accuse her. Oprah didn't warn anyone. Oprah simply removed herself. And in Hollywood, that kind of disappearance is never misunderstood. It's interpreted immediately. It's respected instantly. It's followed instinctively. At first, Meghan didn't notice it. Why would she? She had just participated in one of the most watched interviews in modern television history. Her story dominated headlines, her name dominated conversations, her narrative dominated public sympathy. She had achieved exactly what she set out to achieve. But behind the scenes, something else was happening. Meetings that had once been easy to secure suddenly required layers of approval. Calls that would normally be returned within minutes started going unanswered. Executives who once sounded enthusiastic now sounded cautious, not rejecting her outright, but not embracing her either. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it was real. The first undeniable sign came at a private industry gathering in Los Angeles, the kind of event where alliances are quietly formed and futures are quietly decided. Meghan entered the room expecting familiarity. She had been welcomed in rooms like this before. She had been celebrated in rooms like this before. But this time, something was different. Conversations stopped when she approached. Smiles appeared, but they didn't last. They were polite, not warm. Respectful, not genuine. One producer who had previously been eager to collaborate reportedly greeted her briefly and then excused himself within seconds, claiming he had an urgent call. Another executive acknowledged her with a nod, but never returned to continue the conversation. Nobody was rude, nobody was confrontational, but nobody was inviting her in either. And Meghan began to realize something she hadn't anticipated. Hollywood hadn't rejected her publicly. Hollywood had rejected her privately, because public rejection creates sympathy. Private rejection creates isolation. And isolation is far harder to fight. The most painful moment came weeks later at a high-profile charity gala. This was the kind of event where visibility mattered, where being seen alongside the right people reinforced your status. Meghan arrived dressed flawlessly, prepared to reassert her presence. She moved through the room with confidence, expecting the usual recognition. But instead, she encountered distance. 3 A-list actresses she had previously interacted with reportedly avoided direct conversation. One of them smiled briefly but turned away before Meghan could speak. Another acknowledged her presence but immediately engaged someone else. The message wasn't spoken. It didn't need to be. It was understood. Then came the empty chair. A seat reserved at Meghan's table remained unoccupied throughout the evening. It had been assigned to Viola Davis, one of the most respected figures in the industry. But Viola never appeared, and according to insiders, she had quietly requested a different table after learning where she had been placed. No explanation, no statement, just absence. An absence Meghan was beginning to understand was the most powerful signal of all. Behind the scenes, Meghan's team attempted to stabilize the situation. They reached out to contacts, they reconnected with executives, they emphasized her ongoing projects, her philanthropic work, her future plans. They tried to remind people of her value, but the responses they received were cautious, non-committal, vague. Nobody explicitly refused her, but nobody rushed toward her either. Because Oprah Winfrey's silence had created uncertainty, and uncertainty is something Hollywood avoids at all costs. What made it worse was that Oprah never gave Meghan an opportunity to repair the connection. There was no confrontation. No emotional conversation, no attempt to resolve misunderstandings. Oprah simply moved forward without her. And when Oprah moves forward, she doesn't look back. Inside industry circles, the interpretation became clear. Oprah had opened her platform in good faith. She had expected authenticity. She had expected honesty. She had expected vulnerability. And somewhere along the way, she had come to believe that what she received wasn't vulnerability. It was strategy. It wasn't transparency. It was performance. That perception, whether confirmed publicly or not, became reality inside Hollywood. And perception in Hollywood is more powerful than truth, because Hollywood doesn't operate on facts. It operates on belief. And once belief shifts, everything shifts with it. Meghan reportedly attempted indirect reconciliation. She spoke positively about Oprah in interviews. She expressed gratitude for the opportunity. She avoided criticism. She left doors open. But Oprah never walked back through those doors. She never publicly acknowledged Meghan again in the same way. She never recreated that connection. And she never corrected the growing perception that something had broken between them. One insider summarized it with brutal simplicity. When Oprah trusts you, she elevates you. When Oprah stops trusting you, she removes you. Quietly. Completely. And that's exactly what happened. Because Oprah didn't need to attack Meghan. Oprah didn't need to expose Meghan. Oprah didn't need to destroy Meghan. She only needed to step away. And that single decision triggered consequences Meghan could never fully control. Hollywood began treating Meghan differently. Invitations became selective. Collaborations became conditional. Conversations became careful. Not because anyone publicly condemned her, but because Oprah's silence had redefined her. It had transformed her from someone Oprah supported into someone Oprah no longer stood beside. And in Hollywood, that distinction changes everything. Meghan's greatest strength had been narrative control, her ability to shape how the world saw her, her ability to present her story in a way that generated empathy and support. But Oprah was the one person whose perception she couldn't control. Oprah had witnessed everything firsthand. Oprah had felt everything firsthand. And Oprah had made her decision privately, permanently, and without explanation. And that's what made it irreversible. Because public controversy can be survived. Public criticism can be answered. Public accusations can be defended. But private withdrawal from someone like Oprah Winfrey creates something far more permanent. It creates doubt. And doubt spreads faster than any headline ever could. To this day, Oprah has never publicly declared regret. She has never issued a statement condemning Meghan. She has never confirmed the whispers that continue circulating behind closed doors. She has simply continued her life, her empire, her influence without revisiting that interview in any meaningful way. And that silence continues to speak louder than anything she could ever say. Because the most shocking part of this entire story isn't what Oprah said. It's what she didn't say. She didn't defend Meghan. She didn't reaffirm Meghan. She didn't revisit Meghan. She simply left the interview where it happened, in the past. And in Hollywood, when Oprah Winfrey leaves you in the past, the future never looks the same again.